G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here. Strap yourself in, get excited, get pumped, because today we've got one of the most requested, the most exciting videos we have ever done on this channel. What we're talking about, it's the updated version, the UAVfutures $99 build, the 2018 version. Now, about a year ago, we did the $99 build. It was aimed to get people into drone racing. They didn't have too much cash to spare, but they still wanted a good, reliable drone they could fly around, have a lot of fun with, and so many of you people out there built it. There have been thousands of pictures of people flying around with the UAVfutures $99 build. Well, here today, I'm here to tell you we've updated it and we have pushed the stakes even more. So for around that $100 build, you're gonna get this. You're gonna get even more durable. You're gonna get faster. You're gonna get an F4 processor, an onboard OSD, smart audio, and it is absolutely crazy how much feature packed we're gonna get in there for the price. And people said, Stuart, that's crazy. You're not gonna be able to do it. And I'm here to tell you today, we've done it. I'm gonna put all the links down below so you can mix and match, and we're gonna be going through, I'm gonna be showing you step by step how to start with the bare components, build it up, and you're gonna end up with some bad boys like this. I mean, look at these things. These builds, they look absolutely gorgeous, and I'm here to tell you they are ridiculously fast. They are really, really durable, and you're gonna have an awesome time. So whether you're new to the hobby, you've never built before, I'm gonna be taking you through the very easy process of building these things, or maybe you're a pilot out there, you've already got some drones, but you think, you know what? For $100, why not? I mean, it is ridiculous what we've got right here. Now, if you build one of these things, be prepared. They are very, very fast. You're gonna be seeing some speeds like this.
89 miles an hour.
And when you're out with your mates, you're gonna have an absolute baller of a time. I mean, check out this footage. They are so much fun. So if you're new to FPV drone racing, get ready. There is no better kit to get started. You're gonna absolutely love it. Now, what could make a UAVfutures $99 build even better, you say? Well, a bit of a giveaway. So look, you can tell I don't really need any more drones. So what I'm gonna do, I built these two up. These are the ones we see in the video, but I wanna give them out to you guys as well. So somebody out there, they're gonna be winning some drones. I'm gonna put the official rules down below. Just make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, all that sort of stuff. But I thought I might do it a bit differently this time. I wanna give them out to people who enjoyed the video, who got something out of it. So leave a comment down below about something you enjoyed about the video. Watch it all the way through and let me know which part really worked for you. How is it gonna help you? And then, so that's gonna be for the base version. And then here's the little bit of a kicker, something a little bit different. What I want you to do, we're gonna give away one of these to somebody who replied to somebody else's comment. So if you leave a meaningful comment for somebody I want a bit of community interaction. That's what it's all about, getting our community together. So if you reply to somebody else's comment, that's who this one's gonna be going to. So this is the upgraded pro version right here. So pretty much you're gonna need to comment twice. A normal one is just for your normal comment, and replying to someone else, well, and if you're helping them out, that's where you go into the draw to win the pro version. Now, massive shout out to my Patreon supporters. I couldn't make these videos without your support. So if you get something out of this video, if it helps you get flying, if you enjoy my content on UAVfutures, I'm gonna put the link down below. You can sign up to those things, you know, get things like bonus Velcro straps. We're sending out prizes all the time, but one of the prizes for you guys as well is for my Patreons. I've got the kit here. It's essentially one of these kits, but it's not built up yet. So I'm gonna be posting that out to somebody as well for my patrons, for a bit of a prize for them, so they can have the pleasure of building along, I guess, to this video. But enough rambling, let's stick these absolute race beautiful monsters on the bench, then we'll break it down, go through the components, and show you how easy it is to build one of the best, cheapest FPV racing drones out there for like $100. Absolutely insane. Enough rambling, stick it on the bench, and let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, here they are on the bench. A bit of a close-up. I am so excited, guys, to show you this. I've been putting in a lot of work because last time when we did the UAVfutures $99 build, a lot of people did that. We went back to the drawing board and we've made something even better. So we've got the pro upgraded version over this side, the standard base version here, and let me tell you, it is ridiculous now what you can get if you do the homework, if you shop around and you're willing to build it yourself. I mean, for $100 or very close to, and prices may fluctuate up or down just a little bit, but at the time, I'll flash some pictures on the screen anyway. I mean, like a $14 frame, $3.50 ESCs, probably $1 for props, you know, $11 camera, $11 VTX, and then the rest in our motors. So whether you want to get some little upgrade motors for like $9, $10, whether you want to get some $7 cheaper ones, it is crazy the amount of performance. Don't let the $99 price tag fool you. This is a real racer's drone. It is going to stand up to a lot of abuse and handle crash as well, and it's going to go very, very fast. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go back in time. Thanks to editing, I'll have all the components laid out before we built them out. We'll go through them, talk about why we picked each one, why that's a good option, where the upgrades are, where it's worth investing your money if you want to put in a little bit extra, and show you some different options of how the builds can go together. And then the fun stuff, let's show you how to build these, because that's what we're here for. And let me tell you, you're not going to regret it, especially if this is your first time getting into FPV racing drones. You cannot do it cheaper and get a better drone than this. So let's do it, kick it off, and have some fun with the build in 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, here it is. Here's all our kit on the bench, and I can't stress this enough. Every single one of these components is going to be listed down below. We've got the Pro version over on this side. This is the kit. It's going to be using the standard version over here, but there is no reason you can't mix and match. And there's going to be some things that, like if this frame is going to sell out, I'm going to put some others down below so you can mix and match, choose the drone that's right for you, right for your budget. But what is absolutely critical is that we have an upgrade from last year. So we want fast, we want durable, but on top of that, we want to have smart audio, an F4 processor, and also an OSD on our screen, so we can get some information back to our pilots when we've got our goggles on. So that's the goal of this one. This side's going to be relatively cheaper. This side is going to be a little bit extra, but both of these things, they're going to be absolute performance-packed, crazy little FPV racing machines. Now, the one common component that is in this is this frame that I'm using. So this is the TWE210, and we're going to be going through all these components and why I chose them, that sort of stuff. But this thing, it's a 4mm unibody base plate. It is an absolute tank. Like, this thing is so stiff. It is ridiculous. It's got plenty of room, and it's going to take an absolute beating. So if you're a beginner or just want a second basher quad, something like this is amazing. And then there's another option too. Maybe you want something with replaceable arms. So this one's, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. I'm also going to link the Martian frame down below, because that one, it's withstood the test of time, and a lot of people have used this frame. But this one for me, it was an absolute steal when I got it for about $14. Now what we should do, let's go through some of the other components. I'm going to start on the base version first, and then we'll go through the kit that I'm going to be using in the upgraded version. Now at the front, what we've got a pretty generic camera at the front. It's a JJA, it's a CMOS camera, 1200 TVL, but it's got a really nice lens on there, so you're going to be getting a really nice sort of wide field of view as you're flying around. Now this part here, moving on to the motors, this is going to cause a little bit of contention, and out of anything, I cannot stress this enough for this video. To get all the features that we wanted, fast, durable, OSD, F4, smart audio, we did have to make some sacrifices, you know, to keep that cost down, to keep it as close to $100, $99 as we could. If you can only afford $100 and you're watching this video, you are going to have to use these Racerstar motors. They're the same ones I used in the last build, and I believe they're like $28 or something like that. But I can't stress this bit enough. Please, you know, spend, they're about $8 each a motor or $7. Please spend just a few extra dollars. I think these ones, they're about $10 each for the DYS samguks series, because I'm using these in both of them. They are an awesome motor, especially for the price. These are probably my favorite motors value-wise to date. So I can't stress that enough. If you're going to do any single upgrade in this build, put some of these DYS motors in. They have withstood, a lot of people have been flying them, a lot of people like them, and they are a huge upgrade to these ones. Now over this side, we're going to be using the DYS Woo motors. I'd go the higher KV versions if you can. I'll link them all down below as well. Connected to that, we're going to be going some individual ESCs here. These are 25 amp BioHeli S ESCs. And Stuart, the reason, you might be saying, Stuart, why did you choose that? The reason, they were dirt cheap. So I think they were like, when I picked these up, they were like $3.50. I couldn't help but add them to my card as soon as I saw them. That was an absolute steal. And that goes for all this stuff. Have a shop around, look at the prices, because prices are going to change. Have a look for the best deal that you can. We're using some individual ESCs on this side, mainly for the fact that they were cheap. We've just got some pretty generic props right here. Now this one here, this is just an F4 flight controller. It is going to be soft mounted, and it's got a built-in OSD. So this is just a pretty generic omnibus. So we're going to be hooking that one up as well. And then the other part, because we're going full ghetto, I'm going to put some links down. You might not have any of this. A little piece of wire, and I'm recycling using another XT60. So that is the base kit over there. Oh, almost forgot as well. And we've got our little VTX, which is, you know, just a little 20x20 stack. It's got smart audio, changeable power levels. It's the, I think it's the 5848 or something. Pretty, you know, generic names, but I'll link that down below as well. And the beauty about this one, it comes with a little bonus antenna. So it's not the best antenna, but it's definitely going to get the job done. Now let's let's move on, have a look at the pro components that I'm going to be using. So we've got a Foxy HS1177, a really nice CCD camera with good wide dynamic range. So that's out the front. I've chosen a nice blue color. We've got some nice, these are actually brand name props, so the Emax props. And the difference between props, look, it's these ones, they're like a big bulk pack, but the Avans, I think you can get them in bulk as well, but they offer heaps of performance. So this is going to make it go very, very quick. Again, we're using the DYSs, but these, I think it's is it the Wii's? Yeah, this is the Wii motor. Get the high KV version. This one's the 2600 KV version. And then this one is where things get a little bit different. So we're using a 4-in-1 F4 flight controller with built-in OSD. So it kind of combines all of these parts you see on the base version, if I can get that there. It combines all of these into one nice little part here. And the beauty about this, if you don't like building, if you don't like soldering, getting a board like this does make your build a lot easier and a lot cleaner. Now moving on to some of the other little bits. So this one, you can buy XT60s already soldered up, ready to rock and roll. So I thought, why not? It's going to cost maybe $1 or $2 extra, but you know, maybe you want to do as least soldering as possible. That's going to help with that. A beauty about this one, we are using the TX5258. So this VTX here, and also beauty about this one, it's got smart audio as well, but you can change the antennas. This one, you can change the antennas that you're going to put on here. I'm going to link some of these antennas down below, whether you want axial antennas, whether you want pagodas. You know, you've got a few different options when it comes to mounting this. So I'll put that to the side. And then down the bottom, what you can see right here, this is my UAVfutures Velcro strap. This is used to hold your battery on. And if you want to become a patron supporter, it's like $5. That includes shipping. I'll post one of these out to you. So if you're looking around and you want to buy a Velcro strap and you think, gee, I like this video, it got me flying, it really did help, consider joining my Patreon. There should be a little link that pops up there, and then I'll post one of these bad boys out to you. If you'd love to get one of these, become a team pilot with UAVfutures, definitely check out that link, because this is my full-time gig, and that really does help me support making these videos for you guys. Anyway, what we should do, let's kick it off, get started with our UAVfutures 2018 $99 builds, and let's open this frame up and get building. Alrighty, so when you open your frame up, or at least with this frame anyway, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra little parts, so standoff, screws, bolts, all those things. We're going to put that to the side. All we need to do is our first step. We're just going to put 4 little standoffs on here. So take some of the longer screws, put them through the bottom of the base plate into those 4 holes, and then screw on this part right here. So one of those little standoffs. So that's the first step. So let's do that right now. So once you've done that, what you need to do, if you're using the base version right here, you're going to get these little rubber grommets, and that's because it's going to be soft mounting. If you're using the 4-in-1 and you follow along with the Pro version, the upgraded, you've got things a little bit easier. Just simply take off the little bit of heat treat that comes with it, put it on your board. That one should be ready to rock and roll. But this one, just put these little grommets in. So that's the first thing we need to do. All right, so that's done now. I've pushed my little grommets in, and then we're just going to push it onto our little stack that we're building right here. It should slide just over the top. You don't have to screw it in or anything, because it should just slide in there. But please make sure the little arrow is facing towards the front, and these 2 little pads right here, the USB is going to be on the left, and these 2 little pads are facing out towards the back. That's actually where we're going to hook up our battery. All right, now your next step, in your little miscellaneous bag, you're going to find 4 of these little screws. So take them out, and you're going to use that to screw down onto your flight controller and secure it to the frames. Let's go ahead and do that now, and then cut back once that's finished. So that's all done, nice and snug. Now it's time to take care of our ESCs. If you're building the Pro version, you know, well, you've sort of got some convenience there. That's what you're paying for. You don't have to worry too much about your ESCs, because you've already installed them. This one, on the base version, on the really budget version, we're going to be putting our ESCs. We're going to be hooking them up straight to our motors. So first things first, we're going to be cutting off this clear heat shrink that it's got. So you're going to need to do that to all 4 of your ESCs, and then we'll jump back and I'll show you how to hook it up to your motors. So once you've stripped that off, you should have something that looks pretty similar to this. Whether you're using this ESC or whether you picked up a different one, it should have 3 different tabs ready to solder to. What we need to do, this is where we need to hook up our motors. Now I'm going to show you how to do this once, and then I want you to replicate that 4 times. You should end up with 4 of these, 1 for each arm. So you're probably going to need about, let's say, 1 inch from the motor worth of cable right there, you know, just to give yourself a little bit of room. So I want you to snip that, and then this is what we call stripping the end of the wire. So we need to expose a little bit of that wire so we can solder it straight up. So just slightly clamp it and pull off the silicone on the outside. And now what we need to do, we're going to be soldering these up. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then we'll get on with our first little bit of soldering. And don't worry, it is super easy. Now, if you're like me and the thought of soldering freaks you out when you've never done it before, don't worry. I felt like that too back when I started, but let me tell you, it is very, very easy. And I'm going to put a little playlist here as well. Go watch that. If you have never soldered before, watch that. I'll show you some little tips that should help, but fear not, it is very, very easy. You'll see, and after your first 1 or 2, you'll be like, oh, is that it? Definitely I had nothing to worry about. Now I'm using a little bit of blue tack. Now I'm using a little bit of blue tack. That's a big tip I can use. It's very easy for holding your wires. So if you want something to hold your wires in, a little bit of blue tack, I guess you could probably use even something like chewing gum if you really were in a bind. Now what we're going to do, because we've got these exposed wires on the end, we're going to go through the process of tinning them, and that just makes it very, very easy to join up to our ESC a little bit later on. So a little bit of solder on your clean soldering iron, straight on, and just add a little bit more. You're going to do all that to 3 of those wires, so we're going to tin those 3 wires. There we go. And then what we're going to do, we're also going to tin these pads on the ESC as well. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3 pads. And the idea is just to get in and out as quick as you can. So 1, 2, 3, and then once you've done that, this is how easy it is. Because we've gone through that process, what we're going to do, we're just simply going to hook up these 3 wires to these 3 pads, and I like to start on the middle wire. I feel like that makes our job a little bit easier. Again, I'm using the blue tack to sort of hold it down, to stop it moving around. And you can see just how quickly I'm getting in and out as well. That's it. That's all there is to it. If you can do that, you can do this build. So it's very, very simple stuff. Now what we need to do, because look, that's only going to go on one of our arms, we need to do that with the remaining 3 motors and ESCs. So let's do that and then cut back to when we're ready for our next step. Alright, so now you've done that, it's time for our drone to take shape a little bit. We're going to screw each one of these motors onto the arm, making sure the ESC wires are running up the middle, and you also want to use a little bit of Loctite as well. So if you open up your drone box motors that they came with, you should get 4 little screws. Each one goes through these little holes, so it's very, very straightforward. Put a little Loctite on the end and screw it in. So let's do that now and then get on with the build. So now we've done that on the standard version, we've got our motors and ESCs attached to our frame with our flight controller in there. There's one more little thing that we need to do first before we put some heat shrink on here. You're going to notice on these particular ESCs, we really only need the positive, the ground, and also the signal wire. So this little extra ground here, we can actually just cut that straight off because we're not going to be using that in this build. So I'm going to just simply snip that right there. And then I want to do that to all 4 of these, and then we'll put some heat shrink on as well. Alrighty, so in a moment we're going to solder it straight up to our flight controller, but what I want to do, this is the heat shrink I spoke about before. I'm just going to clip these off actually, it's going to make it a bit easier. I just want to slide this over the top, so here we go. 1 ESC, 3 wires coming off. I want to slide this over the top, this little bit of heat shrink, and this is going to stop it shorting out and also protect our ESC a little bit as well. So grab the wires, pull it over, and then it should simply slide over the top. And then we're going to shrink that down at the end. Don't do it right now because look, if something's not right, you might have a loose soldering joint or something. It's always much easier to change it rather than sort of do it all again. So leave it loose, we'll heat it down at the end. So let's put 4 bits of heat shrink on and then continue with the build. So we've done that, we've got our heat shrink on. Now it's time, we're going to solder up straight to our flight controller. We're going to be connecting these up, but what we're going to do, we're going to pre-tin all these pads. So just like we did on the ESCs to make the wires join nice and easy, we need to do that as well. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because there's quite a few little tabs we have to solder. We don't have to do them all, don't worry. Only a couple over this side, and I'll explain all of them as we go along. So let's zoom in and have a look at how we do it. Now with this one, what we need to do, we're going to solder it up. We're going to connect a lot of these pads up. So I'm just doing, these ones are for the battery right there. We'll be coming back to those in a little bit. And then each one of these ESC wires needs to go to a corresponding little pad. So each one of these, you notice in each corner has, this one says M1 for motor 1. It's going to have a positive and a negative, and also a tiny little one for, that's where our signal is going to go as well. So that's why I like to have the screws on here as well, because sometimes you can solder it up and then you realize that your wire is in the way. So that's why I like to screw it down first. So let's go through and do each one of our little motor tabs. Alrighty, so that'd be ready to solder up, and while we're at it, let's also get ready for putting our receiver in and also our camera and our VTX. So on the receiver side of things, that's very easy. It's just these 3 pads right here. So we've got our ground, voltage, and our signal. And then because we're going to be using smart audio, this is our TX3 right here. So that's where we're going to be hooking up one of our parts to our VTX a little bit later. And then over this side, this is where we've got our stuff for our camera. So we've got our ground, our 5 volt, and our video in, and our ground, .5 volt and video out. It might seem a little bit confusing right now, but don't worry. We will be going through this when it's time to hook up their corresponding parts. So that bit's going to be for the camera and the VTX as well. But now that's all done, let's hook up these ESCs straight to our board. So we're going to snip these wires. I'm going to show you how to do one, and then I want you to replicate that with all 4. Look, what you're going to need to do, and I want you to do this one wire at a time. So each one of these where it says, pretty much you've got your M1, M2, M3, and M4. That's for the white signal wires, and then these are the positives, so positive, 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 and the grounds are on the outside as well. So I'm going to start with my positive wire, and I'm just going to measure it with my finger, take a little snip, strip the end like we did for our motors, solder it up with a bit of tin it up, and then just simply hook it up. Alright, so that's our positive. Now I'm going to do my signal wire. So let's give myself about that much room. It's always better to have a little bit more room than a little bit less. It is annoying if you cut it too short. And then hook up my ground. Don't be afraid either to move it around so you can find what position works best for you. I'm just trying to not get my head in the camera, sorry guys. Alrighty, so that's one of them. I've done one motor. What I want you to do, I want you to replicate this with motors 1, 2, 3, and also 4. So go ahead, push pause, do that now, and let's move on with the rest of the build. So that's all done. The last thing we're going to need to do before we move on, and I'm going to show you how much easier it is, I guess, to do on the Pro version with that all-in-one sort of flight controller ESC, but we need to put in a little battery lead. So that's very, very easy. All you need to do, get your XT60 and put a bit of lead in there. That's why I like the blue tack. It makes it very easy. That's one side. Fill the other side. And then I'm going to do the same. We're going to pre-tin. Also, look, you can use some of the wires you cut off, but I don't recommend it. I would recommend spend that extra $1 or $2 and you can buy some extra wire. I'll link that down below as well. And same sort of process. We're going to strip the end and then we're going to solder it up. So do again that pre-tinning sort of thing, and then we're ready to put it in to our XT60. So simply put it on the top. That's one connection. And 2. And now what we're going to do to the other end, we're going to strip the other end as well, and we're just about to hook it up to our flight controller. But what I want you to do first, with some of that heat shrink, slide that on as well, because that's going to stop any shorts happening. So once that's done, oh, I put them on the same wire, golly gosh. Then let's hook this up to our drone, and that simply goes on these 2 little battery pads right here. So we've got our ground on this side and our voltage on this side. Done. So there it is, most of our soldering done. We just need to put in an FPV gear. What we're going to do now, let's jump over, have a look at the Pro version, and you'll see it's actually quite a lot simpler. So all we need to do is hook up our motor wires directly. So you can see also we need to add our little XT60 on the end, because this one actually comes pre-soldered with a wire. But let's go through the same sort of similar process. I'm going to put the 4 motors on, and then I'll show you just how easy it is to hook those up to this flight controller. Alrighty, so for those following along at home, building the Pro version, you guys get it a little bit simpler. It's a little bit more expensive, but when you got a 4-in-1 ESC like that, you completely cut out that middle ESC soldering up section. So all we need to do is we're going to take our direct motor wires, run them across, and solder them direct to these 3 little pads. So this is for motors 1, which is this one. Motor 2 goes to these 3. The 3 wires of motor 3 go to this tab, these tabs here, and motor 4, its wires go to that one right there. So very, very simple stuff. Again, I recommend to sort of cut them to length, one at a time, and if you want to be really fancy, you can can take it around the inside and then sort of have it towards the outside facing like that. That looks really, really nice, but I'm not going to do it in this version. So it depends on your soldering skills and how comfortable you're feeling. This way is a little bit easier. I find a little bit easier to repair, but they do stick out as well. So it might be a little bit easier to get snagged, but each to their own. So I'm going to solder all those up. It's the exact same process. So we'll do one here and then I'll let you repeat all the rest. So let's cut it, snip it, then we're going to tin it. Like that, and while we're at it too, we should also go around and tin each one of these. So let's go through there. This is exactly the same process before. So go around, tin all these wires, and then once you've done that to the whole lot, go all the way around the outside. You simply just solder them up like that, and then Bob's your uncle. So let's cut back to what that looks like once we've done all the soldering. I'm going to go through, pre-tin them all, cut all the wires, solder them all down, and then our build is going to be looking cleaner and we're ready to install some FPV. Alright, so I've soldered all those up, and then also while I was here I went through and I just tapped each one of these with a little bit of solder. So these were the little tabs right at the front, because we're going to hook up our receiver to these ones over here, and also our camera and our VTX to this one as well. And then there's one more little piece right here. We want to hit TX6, which is this little one right next to this button. So if you can, be pretty careful with this one. And then then just get your soldering iron nice and clean, and just a little dab in and out, just like that. And then that's where we're going to be hooking up our smart audio. So it's just there. Very, very tricky to see, but I'll flash a bigger picture on the screen anyway where you can do that. And then go ahead, put a little bit of heat shrink on here and connect up an XT60 ready for your battery, just like we did on the base version. Alrighty, so you can see both our drones taking place. This one, our base version, ESCs on the arms, very pretty similar stuff, but this one we've got all the kit in the middle. This one a little bit simpler, but let's kick it off. And now all we need to do is put in some FPV, and then we really are off to the races. So the first part we're going to do, we're going to put in the VTXs. So I've got the 58, 48 over on this side, and then the 52, 58 on this side. So we're simply going to hook them up. What I recommend doing first is they come with some little cables. So we're going to do the base version first, and then we'll move over and I'll show you what to do with the Pro version. And the reason this is important is because we want this to have smart audio. So what that means is you can press the buttons if you manually want to select the channels and all those and have a look at the LEDs, or when you've got the goggles on, you can just use your radio. You can select what frequency and what channel you want this thing, and what power level as well. You want this little VTX to be pumping out its signal. So a really, really cool feature. So let's go ahead and set that up now on both of these drones, because they're a little bit different in their process, but very, very similar still. I'm just going to pause the video too and throw this one in here, because some people, they like even more upgrades, and this is a fantastic VTX. So this one, very, very reliable and an awesome connector. So if you want to upgrade even more and you want to spend a little bit more, check out this Maytech one as well. So let's jump over, zoom in because it is quite small, and have a look at the base version first. Okie dokie, now the 5848, you're going to notice it comes with this cable. It's got an awful lot of wires to it. That's what we're going to do our work on, and we can actually get rid of these two wires straight off the bat. So if you're using this one along, if you're playing at home, all we really need is our video wire, our positive and our ground. And if you've got one with smart audio, if you're building one as well with smart audio, that's the cable you need as well. So what I'm going to do, we don't actually need these other ones, so I'm going to take those out. You can simply put something sharp in, lift up the little tooth, and then it should slide right out. So there's one. This is much cleaner way than just cutting them either. And there is two. So now we should have something that looks like this with the 4 wires that we have now. 3 of these wires, I can get it soldered up to the standard place where it goes on our board right here. So that's going to be over this side. So we should do that in a moment. I'm going to give myself, let's see, a fair bit of room. So you want it to be able to move around if you need to move your camera back and forth and all those sorts of parts. Let's say I'm going to cut off just here. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit too long, that's fine. And then the other side, that's going to be going over here. So this is the smart audio one. That's going to be going to TX3. So yeah, that's fine. So that should be fine as well. So for those playing along, yeah, I pretty much cut that to the exact same length, but maybe 2 inches. Give yourself about 2 inches of wiggle room. Now exactly the same procedure, because we've tinned all these pads. We're simply going to strip the ends. These ones are nice silicone wires, so I can actually do these ones with my fingers. And then we're going to solder that up. So let's put a little bit of solder on the end. I'm going to put a picture on the screen as well, just to make these things clear, because you want to get these around the right way. But the top one there, that's going to be our ground, followed by our voltage, which is red. Then we've got our video. There we go. And our smart audio is going to be going over to this tab right here, so TX3. And remember, this is just for this base version. There we go. Then all we're going to need to do is clip this on here, and that's it. Our VTX is pretty much ready to go if we powered it on at the moment. Now, what we'll do while we're at it, let's install our camera. So I'm just using this one right here. This is the sort of generic camera, little 1200 TVL CMOS camera, and we're just going to simply install that into the other side of this. So everywhere where there's a ground, positive, and video in, that's what we're going to do. So give myself a little bit of room. Let's say about that much. It's pretty much the same front to back. I'm just going to orientate it a little bit so it's a little bit easier for me. Let's see, we've got ground towards the front. Followed by our voltage in the middle. And our video in. Alrighty. Then what we're going to need to do is hook up our camera. Just plug it in, and believe it or not, that's pretty much ready to rock and roll. We've got it right there. So what we should do, that's the flight control, this one. Let's jump over to the Pro version and have a look at how things go. Very, very similar process. So let's cut to that now. So on the Pro version, it's almost exactly the same. So we can get rid of two of these wires here, but we just want the ground and the voltage, and then our video wire, which is the yellow one, and then also the green one at the end, which is our sort of smart audio wire. So I'm going to take these two out. So let's have a look here. If you're playing along and you want to sort of have a look on here, we want smart audio, the video, ground, and the 7 to 24 volts. So that's what we're going to be keeping, and you can just remove the 5 volt out and the spare ground that they've got there. Strip the ends again like we did. I'm going to use my fingernails because it makes it pretty easy. We can solder in our VTX. So very, very simple stuff. We've just got, I'll flash another picture on the screen as well. You can also refer to this little diagram, the little sort of heat shrink that came with it. So our first one we're going to solder in is our ground, which goes to the second one right here. Make sure you get them nice and straight before you put them on. So there's one. Then we've got our 5 volt. And then after our 5 volt, let's do our video out, because remember, this is going to be going straight to our VTX. And then our little S-bus cord, we're going to hook this up to this one just here, this tiny little part that we soldered before. There we go. So that's it. Now we can connect this up, and that would be our VTX ready to rock and roll. But what we should do while we're here, let's do the same thing. Let's put our camera in. Alrighty, so before we install our camera, I just want to talk about this one a little bit. So this is an upgrade over the base version, and it is one of the best things you can do, as well as upgrading the motors, which I really recommended from this one, from the base version. Getting a nice FPV camera makes the colors look nicer. It just makes your overall FPV experience that much better. So getting a good FPV camera, definitely, I can't recommend it enough. There's going to be a whole bunch I'll link down below as well. You don't just have to get this one, but make sure that's, if you want to spend a little bit of extra cash, this is definitely one of the best places you can put it into. So even if you want to build that base version but put this camera in there, that's a nice idea as well. But this one, very, very similar. So same sort of thing. You're going to notice there's some extra wires on this one. That is just so you can plug in, you can do a little bit of tuning to your camera, so you can get the contrast and the colors, you can get it just like you like it. Same sort of thing. We've got 3 wires, and it's pretty much the exact same process. So all we need to do is to run that to our flight controller. So I'm going to give that a snip, tin it up, and then we can hook it straight up. What we're going to do, we're sort of going to piggyback on top of them. So because there's only one 5 volt out, we're going to put the connector red on top of this red. There's a spare ground, thankfully, and also we'll go to the video in. So I'm going to start on this side because that's for the video in. So let's get that nice and straight, solder that in. there we go. And then we've got a ground, so we'll solder in our ground. Gonna untwist this just a little bit to make my life a little bit easier, which goes to this one. And then this is probably the trickiest joint of them all because there's only one 5-volt out. We're just going to put this one on top of the other one. So you can take, there we go, it jumped off. So it can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Alrighty, there we go. Alrighty, so now the really exciting part, it's a bit like Lego. This is probably my favorite part of any build, is when you sort of put it together, you put the top on, you zip tie things down, and your drone that started off as a mishmash of wires and parts everywhere really comes together. But before we do that, what I do want to recommend people to do, because you're going to be thrashing these things around, they're going to be taking an absolute beating. Some of these wires can become a little bit fragile due to vibration, so just put a bit of hot glue on there, and that really strengthens them up and makes it last a lot longer. So I'm going to do that. Got my little hot glue gun. Alrighty, so just over these little ones is probably where it's important. And some of the signal wires on this one as well. Okay, now for the exciting part. What I'm going to do, rather than show you put this standoff here, put a bit of tape here, I'm just going to cut to what they look like when they're all built up, because then I can explain things a lot easier, because it's really, really straightforward. But we're essentially going to put the top plate on, I'm going to zip tie it in a few places, tidy up some of these wires with a little bit of tape, and then show you pretty much what your drone is going to be looking like. So let's cut to that in 3, 2, 1, get excited. Boop! Alrighty, there it is. Give yourself a pat on the back. These things are absolutely gorgeous. So you're going to have a big smile on your face when you put them together. But let's go through how that actually happened. Once I had all the loose parts there, all I ended up doing for this version, for the base version, I just zip tied down the ESCs. We've shrunk the heat shrink right there. I put some props on. I'll talk about the props in a little bit as well. And then you can see I mounted the camera in the side using the plate that comes with it. Now you are going to get a limited camera angle, but I'm going to show you a different thing you can do. Whether you want to choose a micro camera you could put in there, or I'll show you what I did on the Pro version to alleviate that. And then some other parts, I just stuck my VTX to the roof of the top plate, and you still got access to the little buttons in there as well. And overall, it's so simple. Once you screwed in the standoff, screwed the top on, it goes together easier than Lego, and you've got yourself such a gorgeous looking drone, if I don't say so myself. And then on the Pro version, you can see I did things just a little bit differently. We've taped down the arms. I've put a few zip ties on here to help hold down things as well. This one I would recommend, if you've got one of these larger antennas on there, zip tie that down as well, because that means it's not going to break your VTX in a crash, because all the pressure is going to be going onto this zip tie. And then a different part, what I actually did in the front, you're going to notice there's these 2 little holes, and you might not want to use the side plate. Another camera option you can do, it comes with the cameras. You're going to get a little plate like this. You can actually bolt that upside down into these 2 little holes. That's what I've done on this one, and that recesses my camera back just a little bit more. Gives it, I'll put a picture on the screen as well, gives it a little bit better protection and allows me to get a little bit more tilt. Now I mentioned it before, all we had to do was put our props on. So we've got the generic ones on here, we've got the faster AVANs on this one, they're all linked down below, but they're sort of all spinning towards the inside of the craft. In the reverse, it's the opposite, they're spinning out from the center, so they're going that way, and these ones are going that way. So much for muchness. Don't worry about it too much, and if you do need to change the direction of your motor, or you've got to plug it in, I'll link the program down below to Be Your Heli. It's like a 2-button press on the computer. Bang, it's going to switch the direction of whatever motor you choose. So very, very simple, easy stuff. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a receiver in these bad boys, because look, everybody has, depending on their radio and what receiver they're using, all those setups are different. There should be a little guide if you want to watch using the S-Bus and the same ones I do. That should pop up right here. It's very, very easy. It's just soldering on 3 wires, so those 3 little tabs that we've already pre-soldered, ready, we've pre-tinned them, ready to rock and roll. So it's a very, very simple process. You shouldn't have any worries whatsoever. Let's do that. Put a receiver in and then go have some fun and rip it around. Alrighty, so there it is. There's my UAVfutures 2018, the $99 build, the upgraded version. I really can't stress that enough. Please, if you're building along at home, I really recommend upgrade the motors, and if you want a second part to put in, upgrade that FPV camera. It's just gonna make it that little bit sweeter, but that's all the hard work done. Now, this is what it's all about. Get together with your mates, go out, fly around. So that's what we should do. Let's go show you how much fun these things can be. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go have a fly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Remember, if you wanna win one of of these, check the official rules down below, but this one's going out for people who like and comment, all that sort of stuff. This one's going out to somebody who replies to somebody in the comments as well. Other than that, subscribe for more FPV related content. Let me know what do you guys think about this build. Good luck with it. If you're a new pilot, welcome to the hobby. FPV is one of the best things you can do. It is so much fun. Subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying. Let's do it. Let's go fly these things. Rightio, out here in the field. Let's do it. The weather has turned it on. This is like the best day we've had in months. We're going to fly around. I'm going to be flying the standard version. My mate Granger, he's going to be flying the upgraded version. We'll fly it around, have some fun, and show you just how cool, awesome, and amazing these $99 builds can be. All right, let's do it.